Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, the 15th of May, 2024. And of course, it is time for Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. And I'm here with you in your ears. That was quite painful. I should reveal to you right now that I did literally just get back from the doctors, where I learned that I have what is very likely a cracked rib. I'm going for an X-ray in the next couple of days. But as of right now, just speaking, these words is agony. So enjoy this. Maybe this will be the shortest episode. I always say this show's going to be under an hour. It never is, because as per the name, I like to ramble. So maybe this is like nature's way of teaching me how to edit, because maybe I'll make every single word count, since every single word is painful to say. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all your lovely messages. Yes, I'm sitting here with a cracked rib. I've been trying to carry on as normal. Going to the Y and swimming has been extremely painful. I believe I did this on Sunday. It's not a very cool story. Actually, even just sitting here right now, I'm deliberating whether or not to actually even say it, but I'm going to, because, hey, this is what this is, right? We are all in the circle of trust. This podcast is a family of friends, and I know that because of all the lovely messages and questions that you have been sending me, which we'll be talking about later. I cracked, and I want to point out before I reveal the story of how I cracked my rib, no one is to blame for this other than myself. I am fully to blame. The injury was sustained, took place. The injury went down on a trampoline on Sunday, and I don't want to blame my son. I don't want to blame him, because I don't want this to sound like a kind of elder abuse, just because I'm now an old man, because I believe I probably did instigate the idea of pretending to be Conor McGregor and Andrew Chandler and having a pretend UFC fight on the trampoline. I think that was probably my idea. And I sometimes forget that my beautiful little baby boy is now essentially a grown man. Aged 13, he is a amazing rugby player. He's also an amazing football player. And by that, I mean football, i.e. what you would call soccer. He's a very, very talented young man, but a very strong young man. And he goes to the gym most mornings, actually, at about 5 a.m. So I must admit, I probably did underestimate his strength when I suggested that we have a faux UFC fight. And but this was obviously not a full contact, where it wasn't supposed to be bloody full contact. When me, aged 46, suggested this fight with a 13-year-old. And I will point out his younger brother was also involved. However, I am the only one that sustained an injury, which is, of course, how I would have it. As a parent, people always say, don't they? They say that you would do anything to take any kind of heartache or pain or discomfort away from your child. You would like to take it on 100-fold rather than see them suffer for a second. Well, those people that say that haven't had their rib cracked by their 13-year-old son. So here I am. It's going to be uncomfortable for a few months now. But I came home and explained to my wife, that, doctor's orders, no laundry or dishes or putting laundry away or hoovering. The only things that I'm allowed to do with this are gigging and drinking. So, no, I'm joking. I'm not going to milk this. I milked it a bit. I didn't say milk it. When I had my hernia operation done and I wasn't supposed to move for a week, I kind of did that. But I'm not someone that milks things. And anyway, I've already been milking. I'm banging on about this for 4 minutes, and it's bloody painful to. So yeah, get on with it, Mullinger. What else have I been up to? I was at Jamie Wilson's studio this morning. Jamie Wilson, also known as James Wilson, many of you may know his work. He is a Hampton-based photographer who has been producing some of the most fascinating, exciting, exhilarating, uplifting work for decades. And he's actually been a photographer for more than 40 years. He has an incredible heritage home and natural light studio in the beautiful Kennebecasis River Valley near Hampton, near Creddles. And he and I have become very close. I was a huge fan of his work prior to becoming a friend of his. He released a book called Social Studies a few years ago, believe it, around 2021. I remember going to the gallery opening at the St. John Arts Centre. It's a book that James Wilson, he goes by professionally. James did this book with John LaRue. James also does incredible photography classes and courses in Mexico with the equally amazing Mark Hemmings. And you may have read a feature about that in the Mountain Minute magazine by Matt George a few months ago. Anyway, James Wilson has been doing this project called Social Studies that has become globally renowned in that what he is doing is capturing real New Brunswickers. He started this project actually in 1993. He did an astonishing portrait of the artist John Hooper. Of course, many of you will know John Hooper as the artist behind the people that are around St. John, Uptown St. John. Of course, John Hooper, a hugely iconic artist. James Wilson has been documenting people, and his book Social Studies was one of my favorite photography books. It sits on my coffee table. It has incredible portraits of everyone from Clyde Ray, Monica Adair, John and Lisa from Tomato Tomato, Pippa Wenberg, the actor, Lise Doucette, the international journalist who's originally from Bathurst, but who Pam and I met in London because she was obviously friends with Tyler Boulay, the founder of Monocle magazine. So anyway, all of this is to say that James Wilson has been capturing and documenting real New Brunswickers with these pictures. And these kind of, he's also known for, panoramic landscapes, but it's these black and white portraits he's done from this book that absolutely, his art has been acquired by everyone from the National Gallery, 5 Canadian embassies, and most excitingly recently, he is in talks. Don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. Anyway, the point is that this guy is capturing New Brunswickers and showcasing us and what we're like around the world, and it's a truly, truly fascinating thing. His studio is unlike anything I've ever seen before. He and his whole family has this incredible history. Like in 1939, his father Lewis Wilson bought the Herb photo studio and changed it to Wilson Studio. So, but I mean, quite literally, he has been in photography. It's been in his family for a century. So anyway, I was at his studio this morning looking at, I think I'm allowed to say this, looking at some portraits that he took of me a few weeks ago, which are unlike any photo shoot I've ever done before. He had this incredible idea of how to, he likes capturing people's, essence. He likes to see inside their souls. It's a really interesting style. Again, I've met and worked with some truly incredible photographers over the years, from, David Bailey, Lord Snowdon. I spent a lot of time with Lord Snowdon when I was at GQ, and James Wilson is truly, up there with the greats. He's up there with the Avedons and the Baileys, and he's New Brunswick's own. Anyway, so it was a very, very exciting thing, and just being at his house is just inspiring. Just looking around these views. Google his work, check out his website. It's a phenomenal thing that he does, and it's just amazing because so often New Brunswick does get overlooked, and Atlantic Canada as a whole gets overlooked, and here's this guy taking pictures of New Brunswickers and taking them all over the world. So what happened since I last saw you? I last saw you all, heard you all, was in your ears a week ago. I think when I last spoke to you, I was off to see The Fall Guy at the cinema. The Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, the big summer blockbuster, the movie that's blah, 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 it's going to save cinema, blah, blah, blah. A huge disappointment financially, as it transpires. I believe it cost something in the region of $140 million to make. It is, of course, based on the TV show The Fall Guy, it's a tribute to stunt people, stunt artists. It is directed by a former stuntman himself, who was also the director of Bullet Train, and everyone kind of thought, well, this is the ultimate. Emily Blunt is arguably, certainly one of the best actresses, and she's certainly the biggest British actress in the world right now. Ryan Gosling is arguably the biggest, one of the biggest movie stars in the world. Surely this was a shoo-in. The reviews were great. What went wrong? I have a theory on this, and I hate to say this because I'm such a huge fan of cinema, and I have such huge love. And here's the thing: I mean, I can say when I didn't love a film because I go to the cinema to see as much as I possibly can. I've always loved the cinema. It was my happy place as a child. I used to go. My parents would drop me off at Wickham 6 in High Wycombe, and I would watch 3 movies back to back. Cinema has always been my best friend, and my favourite cinema in the world is the Cineplex in St John for numerous reasons, but the main one being the phenomenal Julie Wood, who has been at the helm there, the manager, the leader, the curator of Cineplex St John. And to be honest, just going to the cinema in St John is worth it for numerous reasons. But seeing Julie's delightful face is top of the list. She's an absolute joy of a human being. If any of you know her in real life or on Facebook or even have met her, you will know that she just exudes positivity, and the world needs more Julie Woods in it. For all of those reasons, I love going to the cinema. So I can say this when I say that I didn't love The Fall Guy. I thought I would. I love, not that this was trash cinema, but I love trash cinema. I love disposable, fun movies. And I found The Fall Guy, I found the beginning slightly confusing. I guess that makes me extremely stupid. I didn't completely follow exactly what was going on. It just makes me look like an idiot. But again, I don't have time to think about what I'm saying. It's just going to come out. I think what kind of surprised me was these glowing reviews it got. These kind of 4-star reviews everywhere. And again, I mean, one of the best movies I've seen this year was the Roadhouse remake, which I never expected to like, and I've now watched it 3 times. Absolutely. So I love, but something went wrong with The Fall Guy. I didn't buy them as a couple. I didn't find their chemistry was, obviously the stunts are great, but when you're not invested in the story, the stunts don't mean anything. The relationships, you've got to buy into the narrative. None of it really made any sense. There was just a lot of, just it's hard to put your finger on sometimes. In the same way, it's hard to put my finger on why I loved movies, for example, like The Hitman's Bodyguard, which I believe, that was Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds. How many times do we all get confused? Both Canadian as well. How weird's that? That the 2 biggest, handsome movie stars in the world are both called Ryan and both Canadian. There you go. Those are the kind of insights you get here on Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. They are both Canadian, aren't they? They are, because Ryan Gosling came second to the PEI born and bred comedian Heidi Brander, who is one of the best comedians in Canada, by the way, but now based, I believe, in Halifax or Toronto or St. John's. She's a writer on Son of a Critch. She was a writer for many years on This Hour 22 Minutes. She's without question one of Canada's finest comedy talents. If you haven't heard Heidi Brander's comedy album, you've got to listen to it. It is, if you like Amy Schumer, I'm not using female examples, but if you like Amy Schumer and Nikki Glazer's comedy, you will love Heidi Brander. I think she's better than both of those amazingly talented comedians. And this isn't just a lazy female comparison. There is a similarity in style. It wasn't just me being lazy, misogyny, comparing white women to white women. That wasn't what I was doing there. Anyway, get off your. Anyway, I don't know why I'm scared. You can't be cancelled when you already live in New Brunswick. You moved to New Brunswick. You've cancelled yourself. So that's it. That's it. So how did I get onto this? What's my point? Yes, just that Heidi Brander beat Ryan Gosling to a singing competition, I believe it was, in an Ontario high school. There you go. That's the truth. That came up in our debate when we debated local newspapers on CBC The Debaters, but it didn't make the cut. Damn shame. Heidi Brander beat Ryan Gosling to a talent show, and rightly so. If Heidi Brander had been in The Fall Guy, if it was The Fall Woman with Heidi Brander, that's a movie I can get behind. So there's tons of other good movies coming out. Support your local cinema. So speaking of supporting local, as soon as I left the cinema, we went uptown to the new Hopscotch. So Hopscotch was, of course, a whiskey bar in Uptown St. John that has now taken over the space where the Canterbury nightclub used to be. Used to be. Sorry, see, I told you I belong here. Where the Canterbury used to be. We went in there. It was a Tuesday night, absolutely packed. I didn't realise there was a downstairs at this point. Had a couple of moose lights because I was not driving, and I had oysters, which were absolutely delicious and incredibly well priced. So there you go. And anyway, my wife went back uptown, and I have not been uptown on like a night out actually in years, embarrassingly. Well, I'm not a young man anymore, let's face it. I cracked my ribs play fighting with my teenage and tweenage kids. I'm not cut out for a night in the town, but my wife went out to her dear friend and one of her oldest friend, Bev's. I think I can say how old she is because they all went to St. John High together. 50th birthday party. And she went uptown and they had lovely dinner, I believe, at the Cask and Kettle. And then they popped, my wife had said, look, you wish to go into hopscotch. It's absolutely popping in there. Topping in hopscotch. There you go. You can have that. You can use that. And she said it was absolutely rammed, which is wonderful to hear. And then they were taken downstairs, which I did not know was there. And apparently there's this whole other massive area downstairs at Hopscotch, which was also rammed. And my dear friend Andrew Armstrong, who used to work at the Canterbury when it was the Canterbury, said that the downstairs was developed then for that reason, but it never became anything, I don't think. And now it's so anyway, I then came to pick Pam up from Uptown St. John at about, I don't know, maybe 11 o'clock. And drove outside where Bustin's used to be. There you go. I drove up by where Bustin's used to be to pick up Pam, where she was then in Five and Dime, and there was a lineup outside Five and Dime, which was wonderful to see. And St. John was absolutely hopping. I mean, it was just gorgeous to see. Again, it's been years. I mean, I've been out for dinner and stuff uptown, but I haven't been out for a night and the 10, night on the res, night on the booze, living the dream large. And I haven't done that in a long time. So it was nice. And there was people out there. I mean, again, I guess why I'm not there is it's nice to see young people. For a long time, we never saw young people anywhere in and around St. John. And frankly, there was just tons of hordes of young people who, frankly, looked my 13-year-old son's age, all out partying. So I'm not saying they were that age. He looks old for his age. I'm not saying that any of the bar owners uptown are. Anyway, I'm not saying that any young people are out. Anyway, what I'm saying is the city looked popping. So that's it. Holy shit. 17 minutes in. And I've never even got anywhere. I haven't even started. Okay. What have I been doing? Yesterday, we finally put the volume 29 of the Maritime Edit to print. Sent that to print. Italic. Amazing Italic are printing that right now. It is of course, the summer 2024 issue. Very happy with how the issues turned out. We've got tons of exciting stuff in there. I've done a big interview with the amazing Ian Hannah-Mansing, famously the CBC The National host from Sackville. Fascinating story about what it was like growing up, of Trinidadian heritage in Sackville, a small town. We don't look like anyone else, and what that was like. And he has truly fascinating and insightful insights, and profoundly uplifting ones too. So I hope you all enjoy reading that. We've also got a big feature on the best things to do with this summer in the Maritimes. I don't know if anyone has ever done Splashy Facts. My sons and I went there last summer after we went to after we saw Bill Burr live in Halifax at the Great Outdoors. We went to Splashy Facts, which is a huge outdoor. I mean, I don't know how I can't even describe it. It's huge outdoor bouncy castles on the water in Hammond's Plains. Just as River said, the most fun ever. And I didn't realize until I started researching the article that it is co-owned by Dave Walpin, who some of you will remember was the owner of Creddles a few years ago. So that's another wonderful thing to do. In very nearby actually is Atlantic Splash, which is another different to Splashy Facts. It's a water slide park with a roller coaster, tons of fun. We have a big feature on. I've spent 5 years working on this, the definitive guide to every single independent bookstore in Atlantic Canada. That's right, I am gonna say it. It's the definitive guide. I have spent years working on this with help from lots of amazing people like my friend and the former literary editor for Maritime Edit magazine, Alexandra Fournier. Had great help from Wendy Matheson of Dave Shute's bookseller, John Tatry at Atlantic Books, my friend Mary Barlow, formerly of Chapters, now of Audi Moncton. There's lots of other people whose names I am very rudely forgetting, but so many people helped me put this thing together. And Barrett Hooper helped, and we finally have it, and it's finally out, and it's took me years to do, the definitive guide to every single independent bookstore, because these bookstores need to be celebrated and embraced and supported. And alongside that, we have a feature by my friend Rayanne Brennan about the New Brunswick Book Awards, how they came about, how the Writers' Federation of New Brunswick conceived this, because again, as I've banged on about many times, rambled about, we get overlooked on the East Coast. We get overlooked for everything. So, especially when it comes to the arts. And then when you factor in being a comedian in the arts, no one's got any respect for you. And, outside of nice people like yourselves listening. But the establishment is what I'm saying. Don't care. And don't, they don't, the arts establishment itself don't recognise comedy, and then the arts establishment as a whole don't look at New Brunswick. So the creation of the New Brunswick Book Awards was an incredible thing. The story is a real David and Goliath story. The New Brunswick Book Awards are actually happening next month, this June, in Moncton on the 1st of June. And I implore you to. I believe anyone can go. It's free to go to. Tons of amazing books being celebrated, amazing authors. It is going to be a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I definitely recommend people to go. Anyway, so that's what's an issue. There's also a big feature on, would you believe it's 40 years since the death of Noel Winters. A truly tragic story, of course. Many people know the book, The Bodies in the Backyard. Noel Winters' terrible story of murder and indeed, essentially, to put it crassly, the chopping up of bodies on the Kingston Peninsula. A devastating story. So many people involved in that story are still alive, still living here in New Brunswick. So many people affected by these awful events. And we felt it was time that this was journalistically written about, to remember what happened. So that story is in the next issue. Anyway, sorry I banged up that too long. What else? What have I been reading? I can't tell you what the cover is yet, because that will be revealed next week. But I will tell you that one of the other biggest features in there, which is about the number one thing you have to do this summer, and that is Acadie Lumina. And if you don't know what Acadie Lumina is, look it up. It is the most incredible, immersive experience that you can possibly imagine, celebrating Acadian culture. It's in Bucktouche, New Brunswick. There are various Acadie Luminas around the country. This is the only one in Atlantic Canada, and it is in beautiful Bucktouche. And quite frankly, it's a game changer for the region, and not enough people know about it. So we've done a huge feature on it in the next issue. So look out for that. I have been reading a book by, as many of you will know, this gentleman, Andrew MacLean. Andrew MacLean is the columnist of Backyard History, which is a column in the Telegraph Journal, and I know lots of you read it because lots of you send me the clippings all the time because of the fact that his stories are absolutely amazing. They are basically forgotten stories from Atlantic Canada's past, and lots of people like Brenda Sampson and other amazing friends of mine who I assume are listening, maybe they're not, send me these articles, and I have them clipped up around my desk. And basically what Andrew has done over the last few years is dig up, through meticulous research, these absolutely mind-boggling stories. I mean, for example, who knew that the Oscar Wilde toured the Maritimes? I mean, I did not know that. Oscar Wilde toured the Maritimes. He did shows in St. John, in Halifax, in Fredericton. He was actually so well received in St. John that he came back. He did a show to a largely working class audience at the Mechanics Institute, And he delivered a lecture, weirdly, the second time was on interior decorating. When he performed in Fredericton, he was actually booed off stage, I believe. And he in this book, and so the book is a collection of these columns. It is absolutely fascinating reading about how Oscar Wilde comes to the Maritimes. It's 1882. He's only 27 years old. So his most famous works, like the picture of Dorian Gray and The Importance of Being Earnest, haven't been written yet. Neither. It's also 13 years before his conviction for gross indecency when he was sent to prison. But he was becoming well known as being kind of outspoken for. He was kind of advocating art for art's sake was what he was doing, i.e. art that didn't need to push a moral or sentimental purpose, which again, I'm sure, as given what I was saying before, many ways a similar situation now to the situation that comedy finds itself in 2024, where it's not recognized as art because it's either not a thing or because people are laughing or because people are enjoying it. Because people are enjoying it, it's not art, some people say. So he would argue for art to exist for entertainment and to be enjoyed. And weird to think that 2 centuries have gone by. But so the point being that Canada is this kind of brand new country. How old was Canada in 1882? Not very old. And Oscar Wilde came and toured around. Canada was only 15 years old. So he basically had an incredible experience. He was well received in New York. And then he came to Canada and it hit up St. John, like I say, was well received, booed off stage in Fredericton. It's truly fascinating just reading what went down. Oscar Wilde, then again, one thing I didn't know was that Oscar Wilde died at 46, which is how old I am. Absolutely crazy. Another thing, there's a chapter about drinking in the Maritimes and about prohibition in the Maritimes. Now, who knew this? That in the early part of the 1800s, boozing was so prevalent in New Brunswick that, rum at this point, whereas rum is now roughly, what is it, like 40%? Back then, rum was about 70%. And the average New Brunswicker and Nova Scotian was drinking more than 30 litres of rum a year. In the 1800s, rum was also considered a medicine. So much so, obviously, it's an old wives' tale. If you've got a cold, have rum. But back then, it was like pregnancy. You're having trouble nursing. Doctor prescribes rum. Morning sickness. Got morning sickness, have you, love? How about rum? Menstruation pains, rum. Presumably also hangover. Got a hangover, have you? Let me prescribe, you guessed it, rum. And so much so that, Fredericton in the 1920s, so they basically had this thing called rum breaks for health and safety reasons. So this was their health and safety wasn't don't drink a shitload of rum for breakfast. No, health and safety meant we're taking a break at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. from operating all heavy machinery and presumably, surgical operations or whatever. Every job took a break at 11 and 4 so everyone could drink their rum, have a little nap and then get back to work. And good old Fredericton, the capital in the 1820s, they took their rum breaks so seriously that the city installed a bell to mark the time to stop and have a drink of rum during the workday. Can you imagine that? So the bell would sound 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. It's time to take a break. Take a break, love. Take a break and have a drink of rum. And they don't forget, as I said, this is 70% strength. And then they'd go back to work. Anyway, all of this is documented in Andrew MacLean's amazing book, Backyard History. So I've been reading this, on the ski machine at the YMCA, which I'm not going to be able to do now due to the broken rib. I wonder what my lovely doctor would have prescribed for the broken rib in the 1800s. You guessed it, rum. Maybe I should go downstairs and pretend that is the prescription. Anyway, it is absolutely fascinating reading about how much trouble was caused by the check this one out. The government, nowadays the government recommended daily alcohol intake is, obviously just so ridiculously low that no one follows it. It's such a counterproductive thing now when they're like, okay, the safe alcohol limit is 1 beer a week. So everyone goes, oh, fuck that, and just has whatever they want. Whereas back then, the government recommended amount, so this was for moderate drinking, was, believe it or not, of rum, half a pint a day. That's right. The government recommended alcohol. It was like, okay, you don't have more than this. So this is moderate drinking. This is sensible. Only have 10 shots a day. 10 shots a day. Wonder what the lifespan was. Probably not great. Anyway, this book is full of stories like this that will absolutely blow your mind. Stuff that, I don't know. Again, this is the stuff that this should be in the history books. Well, I guess it's not, but now it is, thanks to, and then of course he goes into prohibition and how many New Brunswickers voted for prohibition. No, it didn't last because everyone obviously just got depressed because they couldn't get pissed up. And there were so many, the book is full of these stories. There's another story about a Nazi spy who came to New Brunswick to spy on Canadians, to report back, and fell in love with the people so much, he de-Nazied himself, if that's the thing. The point is, he stopped the spying. So, how nice are Maritimers that a Nazi came here to do what Nazis do, i.e. evil, and he was so won over by the lovely people of the Maritimes, of New Brunswick, that he renounced his Nazi ways and stayed here. And I don't know what he's doing now. Huh? What's he up to now? I don't know. He's probably dead now. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he should have been forgiven quite as quickly as he was. Anyway, point being, that is a badge of honour for the Maritimers. How nice are the people there? Well, they turned a Nazi into a Maritimer. Yeah, nice. Another interesting story in the book is about did you know that the last soldier to die in the First World War was a Maritimer? Tragically, Private Lawrence George Price died in Belgium 2 minutes before the signing of the armistice. How tragic is that? That a Maritimer, Private Price, he was born and raised in Falmouth in Kings County, Nova Scotia. He moved out west for work, and then he joined the Canadian Army, aged 24, and 2 minutes before the war ended, he tragically died. That is some bad luck. That is some bad luck, right? If he had just held out 2 minutes without a bomb landing on him, the war would have been. But then I guess he wouldn't be in Andrew's book, right? So swings and roundabouts. That's not a phrase here, is it? And I'm not even sure that phrase applies. Every cloud has a silver lining. But I don't mean to be disrespectful if his family is listening. So, backyard history, get it. What else has been going on? As ever, when you send me your lovely questions, every week they seem to be involving Baby Reindeer, which has not left the top 3 charts on Netflix. Tom Brady, I believe, is still number 1. The roast of Tom Brady, just, again, colossal. Nikki Glaser, all the way. Baby Reindeer, though, keeps coming up. And, of course, since last week, the real Martha has revealed herself. I don't know if anyone has seen. If you haven't watched Baby Reindeer, watch it. If you have watched it, I don't know if you know this, that the real Martha has now come out, revealed herself, and she actually did an interview with Piers Morgan on what he calls his TV show. It's not. Piers has the mighty have fallen somewhat. Nothing wrong with YouTube, but Piers' TV show, and it is now a YouTube channel. He's up there with all the greats. Russell Brand. Who else has a YouTube TV show? I don't know. Tucker Carlson, is he? Anyway, basically so the real Martha, and it's quite a disturbing turn of events, obviously, that Richard Gadd creates this Edinburgh show, then a TV show about his awful experience being stalked. The internet sleuths kind of outed the real Martha, and it's huge. Everything about this is problematic. It is basically like we're in an episode of Black Mirror. So she is now on Piers Morgan, which most people watching, I don't know if you've watched it, if you're watching it going, please, God, please can she choose Piers Morgan for her next target? And there was moments of, it's just terrifying. And it has to be said, Jessica Gunning, who played Martha, who knew what a good, we all knew that she delivered a great performance, but now seeing the real Martha speak, you realize that holy smokes, she absolutely nailed the performance, which is also problematic because it begs the question. He has asked people to not hunt for her. He's also argued that, that this was somewhat fictionalized, even though it says not, this is based on a true story. It says this is a true story at the beginning. He's also said that the person themselves wouldn't recognize themselves, but then proceeded to use all the real emails and tweets in the show, which made it incredibly easy to find her. And now seeing her be interviewed by Piers Morgan, you see that Jessica Gunning has actually completely modeled her performance on the real Martha. So highly disingenuous to claim that he said, I can't, his statement said something about how he can't confirm anything relating to the real life people. There's been people, the internet's kind of, come to life. I can't comment. I don't agree with the sleuth thing. It's wrong. I don't want the real people to be found. If I did, I've made a documentary. And it's like, why use the real? I think I can say now because she's out there. Her real name is Fiona Harvey. I'm not being, because she's been on Piers Morgan's show, so I can say that now. Her real name is, the interview was terrifying, frankly, because she's obviously, like the character in the show, kept contradicting herself, clearly troubled, which is what makes this so much worse. Is she being exploited by Piers Morgan? Is she being exploited am I exploiting her now by talking about her? Equally, does she not have a right to speak for herself? People are saying, this is wrong. Well, Richard Gadd is the one that chose to put this out. They chose to hire an actress to model. The stylist also styled her on her. The makeup artist made her up like her. He used all the real messages, and now he's feigning surprise that this is all exploding. But then he does have the right to. He's been through a trauma, but then clearly so has Fiona Harvey, the real Martha. So most troublingly, a nightclub in Coventry, which is in the English Midlands. Am I going to get shot for saying that if that's wrong? It's in England. I've taken the train there. I never know where anything is. I'm terrible at geography. They have announced a meet and greet with the real Martha. It's absolutely shocking, the posters. It's saying, come and be her baby reindeer. Hang her. You can hang her blinds or hang her curtains, whatever the joke was in the show, and get your picture taken with her. And people are obviously absolutely horrified. This is exploitation. But then, Richard Gadd just was made millions of dollars off this whole thing, and chosen to make her so easily identifiable. Should she not be allowed? There's a bit of a difference between doing a nightclub appearance in Coventry to being on Netflix. The whole thing's problematic. Right, moving on. Nat Hat asked me last week about pet peeves, and I was thinking on the spot and couldn't quite. I came up with a few, but I've decided to make this a weekly thing. Pet peeves, like food prices, would be obviously one for all of us. How's your Loblaws boycott going? Let me know. Have you managed to? Have you all managed to stick to it? I guess I'll offer a top tip. It's such a funny thing because it's like the grocery stores were the only stores that were able to stay open during COVID. So they absolutely cleaned up, right? While the rest of us were forced to shut down, lock down. You can't work. You're not. This company's getting handouts, but you're not. You must follow these rules, but these companies don't have to. All that bullshit that we bowed down and put up with. Meanwhile, the grocery stores were making the most money they'd ever made because they were the only shops open. And then COVID ends, And other companies have to put prices up because they're trying to recoup losses. So then the grocery stores, and correct me if I'm wrong, decided to jack the prices up just because. And then because obviously their profits are visible and public, it is revealed that every grocery store, and let's not let anyone off the hook here, it's all of them showed record profits post-COVID. So they continue to jack the prices and do evil things like the famously Loblaws eliminating 50% off out-of-date food, that kind of stuff. How is this? Have we allowed this to happen? And how is people that evil? How is it possible that in the middle of a housing crisis, a poverty crisis, children can't afford to eat, food banks absolutely stretched to the max, and meanwhile there is genuinely someone sitting in a boardroom going, right, we made record profits last year. We made 50 billion. The year before we made 30 billion. It's not enough. Jack the prices more. It's evil, is what it is. So, but the problem is, whether it's boycott, is we targeted one store and not the others. And let's face it. I mean, all of these grocery stores, when the prices were low, we all did complain because they were screwing over farmers and everyone else. That said, we're now in a situation where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess the places that are jacking the prices, it's not like they're paying the farmers fairly, so it's like everyone's getting screwed. I don't know about you guys. Again, I don't want to be. I mean, support your local grocery store if you've got one for cheapest prices. And again, I don't feel remotely good about promoting this organisation at all, because again, I'm sure they're as evil as everyone else. But at the end of the day, right now, it's all about the bottom line for all of us, isn't it? And I mean, Walmart's food prices do seem to be the cheapest. Now, that's not to say they're not screwing over probably everyone from their staff through to farmers, suppliers. I don't know. I'm not saying they are, and I'm not saying they aren't, but I am saying that that's where the food is the cheapest. So bring down food prices. So that's my pet peeve. Another thing I watched, which I found fascinating, which kind of relates to what we're talking about, is the final Attack on Wembley, which was on Netflix, which is a documentary about when British soccer fans were gathering outside of London's Wembley Stadium in anticipation of the Euro 2020 final, which was the first time England had been in any type of final since 1966 when they beat Germany. And so it's a huge deal. It's July 2021, so it's COVID's been raging. Everyone's been locked down for a year. England's in a final. The capacity of the stadium was reduced for distancing, but not really. I mean, it was kind of a ludicrous thing. You've still got 60, 70,000 people in there or something. Anyway, check out this documentary on Netflix. It's quite bizarre to watch, to think that in New Brunswick, in the Maritimes, in Atlantic Canada, we were still in and out of lockdowns. And meanwhile, in England, there's hundreds of thousands of people congregating, not just congregating, but doing everything from jumping up and down on buses, sticking flares up their arses and lighting them, doing cocaine openly. In fact, there was one guy, there's a video actually, which you can look at, of a guy does a bump of cocaine standing on something and then puts a flare up his arse and lights it. Frankly, it makes you proud to be British. And I highly recommend watching it. It's interesting documentary, and I will say there is a dark side to all this, which is the atrocious racism that was on display at the end of this when England didn't win due to missed penalties, which was such a bizarre thing. Like I remember in Euro 96, Gareth Southgate missing a penalty. One of the only football games I ever watched with my family. It was a huge thing in England, and that wasn't a final. But it was like this was the Three Lions, the summer of soccer, football. And Gareth Southgate is now the England manager and coach, one of the two. Again, I don't know enough about football, but I love it now. And seeing Gareth Southgate hug those players. But so there was a very dark, and of course, I mean, the dark side also was just watching Brits smash up. But it's a fascinating insight to watch. How fun can turn into not fun. And it's a miracle that nobody died in this. But anyway, I highly implore you to watch it. Shows. I have a show next Saturday night in Miramichi. It's my first show in Miramichi in 2 years. So please tell your friends in the mighty Miramichi to come out. The show is a combination of my greatest hits and new material that I've never done in Miramichi from last year's tour show, plus lots of inside stories about filming of Bit Out of Water with your Mayor Adam Lorden. The Yip Cider shows for this summer went on sale last week. Myself and Ethan Ash, we're only doing 4 shows. Ethan is only here for a very short time. So we're just doing 4 shows at Yip, at the beautiful Dome there. Tickets for that are on sale now. We're also doing a show at Hampton Brewing Company, and those tickets will go on sale any second. I'm going to shoot through the rest because they're going to be running out of time. And again, as I pointed out, I am in absolute agony. It really hurts to laugh. Another movie I watched, which again, I should go back to the point. Support your local cinemas. If you live here in St. John, support Cineplex St. John. Julie Wood, total hero. One of my best cinematic experiences this year was Anyone But You. There's an interesting article in Empire magazine about how this movie that was not particularly big budget, that got terrible reviews, that kind of seemed like a generic rom-com, went on to become this colossal runaway hit because people just want to be entertained. And Sydney Sweeney and that other handsome guy from Top Gun are the leads in it. Anyone But You. So that was magnificent. I saw The Idea of You is a movie on Prime, which again is painful watching Prime now. Like adverts popping up. I mean, just awful. It's Anne Hathaway playing opposite a British actor, and I don't know what it is now. Young British men in movies. I find part of the reason why this ramble goes on is I don't wear headphones. I don't listen to myself while I'm doing this, because which you're supposed to do when you're recording podcasts and radio. I've never been able to do it because I hate the sound of my own voice, contrary to what people used to say to me when I was a kid. He loves the sound of his own voice. I really don't. I couldn't abide, this idea of you. It's Anne Hathaway plays a supposedly, older woman who falls in love with a kind of young, it's based on a book, a Harry Styles type, and people crying in movies. When, I don't know, I couldn't, it's hard when, again, it's just, she's that they're crying in business class. It's like, I'm supposed to be sad, but it's supposed to be a sad moment, but I couldn't sympathize because it's like she's sat there in business class, and most of us cry every day. Every time we put a Taylor Swift record on, we cry. So, you're in business class crying. I find it hard to sympathize. Anyway, I didn't like that. What I did like was the Steve Martin documentary. Did I already recommend that? It's highly recommend that. Been watching Stranger Things. I watched all of Stranger Things with my oldest son, and now I'm watching it with my youngest son, who's absolutely loving it. It's really interesting seeing this season 3 when the big mall opens, and how it's like this amazing thing that the mall is opening, and then the sad high street of how the mom and pop stores on the high street are going out of business because of the malls. And then, of course, now we live in a time when malls are going out of business, although not here in St. John. There's one. It's not really a mall anymore, but the fact that our main mall, McAllister Mall, is actually booming, and the Halifax Shopping Centre booming. Atlantic Canada, malls, or as we call them in England, shopping centres. What a ridiculously literal description. What's that? It's a shopping centre. Why? Where you go shopping there. And where is it? It's in the centre of town. So we're going to call it the shopping centre. Our malls here are absolutely popping and booming. But it's a funny thing. Nowadays, it feels like everything's coming back between, mom and pop stores are more, and by mom and pop stores, I guess I mean privately owned, family owned, local businesses are embraced more than ever, I think. Well, certainly where we live, which is another reason we're blessed to live here. But I think in London as well, like local people do support their local stores in London. And it's funny, it's like when people get nostalgic about Blockbuster, it's like, we miss Blockbuster Video. But people forget that Blockbuster Video was the devil at the time. Blockbuster Video was putting all the mom and pop video stores out of business. When you think about those gorgeous little independent video rental shops, they were the dream, and Blockbuster would buy them out, would crush them, would force them out. They were just like, they were truly evil, their tactics. And it's funny how now we look at Blockbuster nostalgically, but really we should be remembering the mom and pop stores. Went to Popeyes on Friday night with my son. It's funny, when I went to Popeyes, Louisiana Chicken. When it first opened here in St. John, it was, I'll be honest, a brutal experience. Of course, the lineup was, in case you're wondering where it is, it's where the 3 Mile used to be. The good old 3 Mile, many a good time there. I went there, when it opened, I don't know when that was, 8 months ago. It took about 45 minutes to get the food. It was criminally expensive. People were kicking off in there. It was not a nice experience. Went there Friday night. I think the prices have come down. The quality of food has gone up. And it took a minute for the food to come out. So if you gave up on Popeyes, give it another go. Locally owned. So even though it's Louisiana Chicken, when is Chick-fil-A coming to Canada or Atlantic Canada? Has anyone had Chick-fil-A? My friend Dr. Ansar Hassan and his beautiful wife Danielle recommended Chick-fil-A to us on our way to New York at the start of this year. We were driving. They live in Yarmouth, Maine. We stopped there for a few days, beautiful few days with that wonderful family. And they kept telling us about Chick-fil-A. So we get to New York. Within 2 minutes, I'm in a Chick-fil-A. They have, again, it's insane. It's so much quicker than, how slow like McDonald's is here in the Maritimes. It's literally, sometimes getting McDonald's is slower than a restaurant. Chick-fil-A, again, and we kind of like Chick-fil-A. What did they say? Chick-fil-A, it came out in about a minute. And they've got gluten-free options. You can see exactly what's in it. The calories are really, really good. Right. Questions. And then, oh my God, I said this was going to be a short one, and it's not. And it's not been. And I'm sorry if this is, by the way, I want this podcast. This podcast is, we're a family, right? You, me, you're still here 51 minutes in. I heard my son listening to last week's episode, and I have to say it sounded boring as shit. So if this isn't funny enough, or it's just really boring, me bang, I have no idea what I'm talking about, and it is a ramble, but I also don't want it to be a waffle. I don't want it to be complete nonsense. I don't want it to be a mumble either, and that's the problem with not listening to yourself, is you don't realise when you're mumbling. And I realise the combination of me talking ridiculously fast, combined with the ridiculous accent, plateaued with the fact that just speaking is like being punched again in the ribs, yet again, by Conor McGregor himself. Oh, this Saturday night, Tyson Fury's fighting, isn't he? There's the Tyson Fury fight this Saturday night. It's going to be exciting. What else? Oh, yeah. Speaking of movies, Mother of the Bride with Brooke Shields. And by the way, I hope you all had a wonderful Mother's Day. I hope if you're a mum, I hope you had a great Mother's Day. If you're if you have a mum, if you came out of a mum, if you know a mum, if you like mums, whatever your mum connection is, if your next door neighbour's a mum, I hope you all had a wonderful Mother's Day. It's an important day. It's a beautiful day. Horribly. Did you know this? Someone told me this fact, that Mother's Day was designed to be on a Sunday by the people that created it, because that's obviously the day of the Sabbath, the day of God's day. And so it meant that it wouldn't become commercialized. That was the theory. And oh my goodness, the pressure on that day from everyone. And it's so unfair. It's Mother's Day, and yet the mothers end up doing all the bloody work. So it's Mother's Day, and the mother has the pressure to make it a special day for everyone else. Bullshit. Mother's Day, the mother shouldn't have to do anything. Like, it's completely unfair. Mother's Day is just more work for poor mums. Anyway, I hope you treated your mum well, or any mums you know. What's my point? Mother of the Bride with Brooke Shields. I love trash. It's dog shit. It's not a good film. Oh, I went to Carney Island again. St. John's, Carney Island. It's like all the great arcade games from old, the coin pusher machines. Had a great time. Anyway, I have been swapping messages with one of our lovely listeners, Angela Orbin, and we've been talking about something which has come up on this podcast week after week, which is, this idea of Mullinger's matchmaking services, right? Now, because it's come to my attention through the most messages I get is from amazing, strong, powerful, brilliant, beautiful women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and how awful the dating pool is out there. And this is not people being fussy. This is people looking for decent men who don't send pictures of their body parts. So let's make a list, right? I'm serious about making this matchmaking service happen, right? Let's make it a level playing field. Here are the lists of musts, right? Men, if anyone knows a single man, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right, looking for a serious relationship with anyone, he needs to be honest, reliable, possess good old common sense, must not currently be married, dating, seeing, or otherwise entangled with another woman. It seems like you wouldn't need, or indeed, man, it seems like you wouldn't need to list this, but here we are. Must bathe daily. It's a tragedy that even needs to be said. And I don't think this is a classist thing, in that we've all been through hard times, and many people have been through hard times worse than others. There's always someone worse off, of course, but at the very least, if you're going on a date, have a shower, gents. Put on some deodorant. Don't stink, is what I'm saying. There's never an excuse for stinking, and of course, there's always. It's funny that, isn't it? People we always think that, don't we? There's always someone worse off. There's always someone worse off. It's a bit like last week. I was talking about that thing that Dr. Meredith Henry had told me about, how you've always been through worse things. Sorry about the train you can hear in the background. I live by the train track, which I love because I love trains. Riveting, James. This is a ramble. You've always been through worse things, and I was saying this last week, but then I guess at some point we're all going to go through the worst thing we've been through. Why is the train honking that horn so much? But it's a funny thing when people go, there's always someone worse off. Just think, who's the worst off person ever? Imagine that, right? Imagine if you work your way down. Something bad happens to you, and someone goes, so you lost your entire family, just perished this morning, and you are currently being tortured by the Taliban. But there's always someone worse off because someone else is being... Who's the person in history who was the worst off? I was thinking about like that, the person that gone through when someone accidentally killed John Gotti's son in a car accident. I believe Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, is that his name? The killer was hired to kill this what the mob would call a civilian, this person who had accidentally hit his son, and the punishment, I believe I'm right in saying, was to be put in a cave and eaten by rats over a period of weeks. And this was videoed and given to John Gotti. Again, how much of that's true, don't know. Not been in touch with Gotti for a while, and the Iceman hasn't been answering my calls much lately. But when that geezer was lying in that cave, being eaten by rats for weeks on end, knowing that he was not going to live, knowing there's a video camera going of him, is he thinking, well, how many likes? This is going to get on the old TikTok. No, he wasn't thinking. He wasn't thinking that. That was the interesting thing about that Oscar Wilde thing. Is Oscar Wilde would have been like a social media sensation now. Like the way that the word spread around, that was real social media. It was people actually socially sharing. Oscar Wilde was like the original influencer, and like all influencers, gets booed in Fredericton, gets embraced in St. John. Anyway, sorry. With that geezer, when he was lying there being eaten by rats, was he thinking, well, there's always someone worse off than me, eh? I could be being eaten by rats and a crocodile right now, but only rats. It's deadly. This cave could be really cold or really hot. I don't know. Was he thinking that? So anyway, answers on a postcard or on a tweet or a message. Who was the worst off person? Maybe you think you are. Let's have a prize. I will a signed copy of Andrew McLean's Backyard History and James Wilson's Social Studies for anyone to write to me and tell me. This isn't really actually a laughing matter, is it? Who is the worst off? person in world history. Okay, 3 more questions, then we're going. Sorry for rambling so long, but that is the name of the game. And Stuart has asked the question, do you know where the old Zellers used to be by any chance? Please know that, and I'm not being sarcastic now, I never get bored of people asking that. I never, when someone sees me, makes eye contact with me in Sobeys or at the Y or at the Superstore, which you won't see me there the next few weeks because boycott, because, Loblaws, so much worse than all the other. I mean, we should just boycotting all of them, shouldn't we? It's like, I'm going to boycott Loblaws, but I'm going to go to Costco because clearly you can't. Anyway, it's just manners. When's it all going to end? Anarchy. I never get bored of people asking, bring back Zellers. I wouldn't have boycotted Zellers, I'll tell you that. I do know where the old Zellers used to be. It's where Kmart used to be, near where Blockbuster Video used to be, by where Lancaster Mall is there. It's where Walmart is. By where No Frills is. Beautiful. Never get bored of that. So if you see me and you think, oh, it's James Mullinger over there, I was thinking of going over and telling him where Zellers used to be, but he probably gets sick of that. I don't. I fucking love it. Isabel Elliott has asked, forgive my language there, I don't mean this to be a rude podcast. It's supposed to be a family-friendly, safe for work one. Although if you are at work still listening to this bullshit after an hour, you should be fired. If anyone can hear this, coming out of a cubicle, and someone's been listening to this bollocks, you need to get this person to if someone's listening to this at work after an hour, then they are the best off person ever. You have the best job in the world. Isabel Elliott has asked, did I see the Northern Lights on Friday night? Embarrassingly, no. I had no idea it was happening, knew nothing about it. Next day saw all these pictures going, oh my God, that looks absolutely amazing. Wonder where that is. It was here and everywhere else. Completely missed it. Christine L., the amazing Christine L., who is the world's greatest archivist and just all-round genius when it comes to anything. I'm sure she was heavily involved with helping Andrew's book to bring things full circle. Actually, this is a question that has a depressing answer. How is the Maritime Edit magazine doing? How is the Maritime Edit magazine doing? Do you find you have enough subscribers and advertisers to keep it going? I hope so. Well, thank you, Christine. That's lovely. I hope so too. We don't, but we're doing our best, and it's a struggle. And if anyone listening, well, I wouldn't tell someone to buy something if I thought it was no good. We put a lot of love into the magazine, and I think it's the best thing it could possibly be with my limited skills. And there's no other magazines like it. Well, there literally is no other magazine like it. And if you like something, support it. So yes, I mean, sincerely, when people subscribe, it's a massive, massive help. Big magazines don't need to worry about things like that. Reader's Digest, which used to believe Reader's Digest Canada used to receive, I believe, upwards of $2 million in taxpayers' funding, and still folded. That's how hard the magazine business is. You get given $2 million, we don't get given anything, and we don't get given that, and we're so yeah, support it. MaritimeEdit.com, check it out. This has been Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, and it's certainly been that. There's nothing else to add other than keep sending me your messages. They mean the absolute world to me. Tomorrow I'm going to see Stephen Tobias at the new St. John Theatre Company Courthouse venue, and I cannot bloody wait. So please email me, comedy@jamesmullinger.com, if you've got questions, want to hear about sponsorship and advertising opportunities on this podcast, or indeed in the magazine. I've been James Mullinger. You've been bloody amazing. I'm going to go downstairs and listen to a Taylor Swift record. Thank you, by the way, to the New Houses for that. Possibly going to cry, and I don't know whether it's going to be because I love the song Anti-Hero so much. I don't know if I'm going to be crying because of the terrible state of the dating pool for the amazing women of New Brunswick, or indeed crying because I've been kicked so hard in the ribs that I've got a cracked rib, and I've been sitting in absolute agony for an hour. So keep sending me messages. Thank you very much. I've been James Mullinger. You've been absolutely beautiful. I salute you. Keep supporting local, and I will see you next week. Thank you. I love you.
Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.